Relocating internationally with a pet is hard and expensive. You are going to have to decide if the process is worth it to you. I just went through this a week and a half ago, and so the experience is fresh in my mind. That's why I want to share this with you. Assuming that your destination country allows you to bring pets, the first step is doing your due diligence and deciding if you should rehome your pet rather than bring them with you. You need to consider factors like their age and their health. Is it worth putting them through all the stress that they have to endure in order to bring them to a new country? But let's assume that you decide that you are going to bring them with you. You are not going to rehome them. You want to start the process with your vet early, probably a good 6 months or so in advance of your departure date. You want to tell your veterinarian that you want to relocate your pet to a certain country. You want to make sure that your vet is experienced with international relocations and let them know what country that you are going to so they can do the research into the requirements for that country. You will also need to update any vaccinations. You also need to make sure that they have the international chip. So for example, my cat did have a chip, but it wasn't the latest one for the international requirements, and so she had to get a brand new chip. The next thing to consider is how you are going to transport them. And there are two main methods. Assuming that you are flying to your new home country, the cat or your pet can either go in the cargo hold or in the cabin with you. Depending on the size of the pet, like if you have a big dog, they're going to have to go into the cargo hold. Also, there are other different kinds of pets, I think like snakes, they have to go in the cargo hold. And a lot of people are apprehensive about that. I decided that if I was going to put my pet in the cargo hold, I would have gone with Lufthansa Airlines because they have a top-notch, world-class process for transporting pets internationally. They have the cabin, the cargo hold where they're going to put the pets has been specially configured so it has the same temperature and pressure conditions as the main cabin. Also, if you have a layover, they have an area that is configured in the airport for them to have a rest and stretch their legs and use the bathroom and all of that. So I would have been comfortable taking my pet on Lufthansa in the cargo hold. Ultimately, I decided that I wanted my cat to be in the cabin with me. And so that is another choice that you have. But you are also going to have to decide if you are going to sedate your cat or pet, which is not recommended, or give them any other medication that can help them. And I went the medication route. Oh, by the way, a lot of vets, and I think even some airlines, will not allow a sedated pet to go on board. Sedation can actually work against you because your pet might fight that. They might become unruly if you try to sedate them. But I went with gabapentin, which really helped my cat relax. I had a 9.5-hour flight from Seattle to Paris, and she was good for the first 8.5 hours. She started meowing at the end, but that gabapentin really did the trick for her. Another thing that I did is that I engaged the help of a professional. I hired a pet sitter. And yes, it was more expensive. There was a sale on tickets for the airline I went with. I could have gotten from Seattle to Spain for a very low price if it was just myself. Adding in my cat with a cat sitter, that can increase the price by 10 to 20 times. But for me, I decided that I did not want the stress of my belongings along with having to look after my cat. One thing that I also want to mention, luckily I did not see these videos until after I got to Spain, but there are a surprising number of cats who get away out of their carrier into the main cabin, and you can find these funny videos where you can see flight attendants walking down the aisle holding a cat and like, hey, does this cat belong to anybody? Let's see. Oh yeah, another thing that is a part of the process, in order to bring your pet into another country, you're going to have to get an international health certificate. And this is another part of where the vet comes into play. In the United States, this international health certificate is managed by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. I made my journey in 2025. I made my journey a few months after Elon Musk and Doge and the current presidential administration gutted the USDA. And so the process was always not so great to begin with, and it is even worse now. But what happens is that you need to have an appointment with your vet within 2 weeks of your departure date. And then your vet will send paperwork to the Department of Agriculture. They will certify it, and they process them depending on the date of your departure. And they plan for the paperwork to get to you the day before you depart or the day that you are going to depart. And so it's very stressful. It is extremely last minute. And in my case, I did not get notification that the USDA approved my paperwork, certified my paperwork until the morning of. My flight was at 1:30 in the afternoon, 8:30 in the morning. They certified the paperwork and it was on the way back to me. That was only 5 hours. And so I would have had to leave for the airport at 11 o'clock, and the paperwork didn't get to me until 10:45, and it was cutting it way too close. So I ended up pushing my flight back a day rather than just worry about not having my paperwork in time for the flight. And so that whole part of the process, I'll be honest, it just really, really sucks. But be prepared that they always make it so that it is last minute in terms of getting your paperwork for the International Health Certificate for being able to fly. But anyhow, I get to the airport, check in at the Air France counter. That part went smoothly. I was actually surprised. I thought that was going to be very hectic and chaotic, but handed over the paperwork. They took a look at it and they're like, okay, great, good to go. You can get on the airplane. So nice and smooth. Where it got difficult was when I got to Valencia. And so I get my bag, I'm heading towards the exit, and you have your Guardia Policia there, and they direct me towards one lane, and this woman comes out, young woman, attractive, and she's like, hey, give me your paperwork. And she was not wearing any kind of clothing to indicate that she was part of the airport. So first I was like, what's going on here? Is this some kind of scam? But no, she was actually with the airport. She later came back and wearing the vest indicating that she was part of the airport people. And so she was like, yeah, okay, here's your paperwork. I need proof of the chip. And so they had to check my cat's chip. And then they're like, okay, where's the vaccination record? And I was like, all the paperwork is in there. So I actually had to get in touch with friends and the vet and have them send me a photocopy of the vaccination record. So I would recommend have a copy of the vaccination record with you. I think the vaccination record was actually part of the International Health Certificate paperwork, but the young lady came back and she's like, okay, everything is good. So I actually got held up for about 45 minutes to an hour after I was ready to leave the airport. And so it just added to a bit of the agony of the 24-hour experience of moving from Seattle to Valencia, Spain with my cat. So if I had to do it all over again, one thing I might do differently is travel separately from my pet. I might have traveled a day before so that I could get settled in Spain and then have the pet sitter bring the cat separately, although I don't know how that would have worked with me being separate from her and she being stressed out and worried because I wasn't there. I don't know. It's something that I would consider. But the bottom line is we are both here together and I am happy and overjoyed. I love her. She's my little baby. But that's what I experienced traveling internationally, relocating internationally with my pet. If you decide to do it, I hope everything goes smoothly for you. Thank you very much. And by the way, here is my baby that I cannot live without. She's my baby girl.